Hey everyone, I'm Jacob Castro and welcome to another video here on Jacob's Aquarium. So today in this video we're going to be focusing on filtration, and this basically means if you are a existing hobbyist, meaning you've been in this hobby for quite some time, you already know about filtration. There's no second guessing things when it comes to filtration. There's no mystery. You might not want to watch this video because it's really going to talk about stuff that you already know. But for those of you out there that are beginners or that have just started in this hobby, this video can be very beneficial to you, and I encourage you to pay attention and watch every single minute of it. So filtration is a very important part of an aquarium. Filtration pretty much guarantees the life, the success, the overall well-being of an aquarium. We need filters on aquariums basically because aquariums are artificial environments and there's no way to keep them clean other than putting a filter on an aquarium, or installing one I should say. You really can't be successful in this hobby without a filter being used on your aquarium. Some sort of filtration, I guess I could also say. You need something to move the water around, you need something to filter out fine particles, you need somewhere for beneficial bacteria to collect other than the aquarium. You need water movement for oxygen so your fish will stay alive. You need a filter. It is something that you just cannot go without when it comes to owning an aquarium. In this video, we're going to focus primarily on the three most popular types of filters out there, which are power filters, Castro filters, and my favorite wet dry filters. So first we'll talk about power filters. So power filters come in many different shapes and sizes, and they have many different options as well, and they are relatively cheap. So a good filter for somebody that's on a budget. They do, for the most part, there are some filters that have this part of the filter process, but for the most part, power filters are missing the biological aspect of a filter. They really don't have a section where you can fill it with bio balls, because bio balls would be too big, even the smallest bio balls. Ceramic rings, C nodes or anything like that. There's really no place to put that other than just dumping it inside the filter, which could kind of not make it work properly. So for the most part, power filters are missing that, and biological filtration is a very important thing for aquariums, because biological filtration is basically going to build up the good stuff and take away the bad stuff. That's basically the simplest way of saying it. So for the most part, they are missing that, but you will find some models like the Fluval C4, for example, that do have a biological filter, a biological chamber, I guess I should say, at the top. So it has a drip tray, and then also a section that you can fill with biological media. So there are filters out there that do have, or power filters I should say, that do have a biological chamber or section, but for the most part, most power filters don't, and that's pretty much the reason why I don't recommend them. And they really are meant for beginners, somebody that is just starting in this hobby that just needs a filter to filter out fine particles or detritus or whatever, and something that they can just put on their tank and work for the time being. But if the power filter that you choose doesn't have any type of biological filtration, you just shouldn't stick with it for the life of the aquarium. You should consider upgrading to something else in the future. Now, one of my favorite things about power filters is the way that it puts water back into your tank. You notice with most power filters it has kind of like a little waterfall, I think that's pretty cool. And for tanks that aren't planted tanks, and I say this because power filters create a little too much water movement, which increase oxygen levels and deplete CO2 levels, which can affect plant growth. So not really great for planted tanks, but I do like that little waterfall feature because it does create great water movement inside of an aquarium, which is great for regular freshwater fish or pretty much any fish, period. And it's also good for turtle tanks, terrariums, a tank where you need a waterfall. You can create one really easily with a power filter, simply by just lowering the water level in the aquarium that it's in, so or that it's installed on. So that's one of my favorite things about power filters, and I've had some fun with that option before when I was a kid. I always used to, no matter what tank I had, even if it was a regular tropical fish tank, I would always lower the water level a little bit in my aquarium just so that I can have that little waterfall feature, because I thought it was really cool. So that's one thing I like about power filters, but for the most part, they aren't a great option, or a great filter, I guess I should say, for a planted tank, because they just create too much oxygen and too much water movement. But nonetheless, for a regular aquarium, regular freshwater aquarium, or even a brackish aquarium, or even a saltwater tank, they do work really well, and they are pretty cool. Next, we move on to canister filters. As you guys know, I have the Hydor Model 450 canister filter installed on both of my aquariums. I have two of them, and they are great filters. They work really well. They're quiet, which is really important because both my tanks are in my room, and they do a great job at providing proper filtration for my aquariums. I've had one of my Model 450s for almost a little over a year, I think now, and it's just my absolute favorite canister filter that I've ever owned. Well, actually, I can't say that because it's the only canister filter that I've owned, but it's a great filter nonetheless, and one that I would recommend. And canister filters in general are really good filters as long as they are made well. And I say that because some canister filters can be really, really loud if they're poorly made, or have cheap parts, a cheap impeller, or whatever. So you want to make sure you get one from a good company that has a history of making well-made products, I guess, or something that has good reviews online, or look at the reviews before you buy it, because some canister filters can be quite loud and not really the best option if you're looking for a silent filter. But for the most part, canister filters are really, really great for planted tanks because they are a closed system, which is very, very important for a planted tank. And what I mean by closed is that there is no exposed water going through the filter. So it's not like a power filter where the water's open, to the air, everything's being moved around inside the box, the hang-on box on the back of your tank. It's not like a wet dry filter where water's being poured over bio balls. It's nothing like that. It is a closed system, so there is really no way for water to be sloshed around and a lot of oxygen put into it and CO2 levels to just go out the door. It is a closed system, which makes it a great filter, and I should just say the best filter for a planted tank. And most importantly, canister filters offer all three stages of filtration: biological, chemical, and mechanical. Or mechanical, chemical, and biological. I think I did that backwards. I'm dyslexic, sorry about that. But canister filters offer those three options of filtration, which is great. And they do that in the form of media baskets. Some canister filters have up to 6 media baskets in them, which is crazy. You can fill those baskets with lots of biological media, chemical media, mechanical media, whatever you choose, but nonetheless, they offer great filtration options and great customization options when it comes to filtering your aquarium and the different medias that you want to use. And as I said, in the big ones, there's so many baskets and so many different options. So canister filters are great because they do offer those three stages of filtration. For me, I only use biological and mechanical media because I really don't see a need for chemical media. But for the most part, you can use all three in canister filters, which make them a great filter for any planted aquarium. Now, the number one thing I do not like about canister filters, and I hate doing, is maintenance. This can be something that can be a little frustrating sometimes, or challenging for some people. For some people especially that have trouble lifting, heavy objects. Because when you clean a canister filter, for the most part, unless you have a magical canister filter that can somehow clean itself, or you be able to clean it in its place, where you've installed it without making a mess, which I don't think one like that exists. Unless, you have a magical canister filter, you have to unscrew the canister filter from your filtration system, take it over to a sink or somewhere where you can make a mess with water, pour all the water out, scrub inside of it really well, scrub the impeller and all that stuff. It can be a little frustrating sometimes because it is a process. It is a time-consuming process, and sometimes it can be messy. With some canister filters, there really aren't great options as far as stopping water flow. Sometimes they tend to leak a lot. For the most part, though, companies have been doing a really great job and making sure that they include great options with their Castro filters as far as cutting water flow, so that when you take off hoses or whatever, they don't leak or whatever. But there are some Castro filters out there still being sold where that is an issue. They leak, and it just gets frustrating and it can make a mess, and So Castro filters are great, but that's one thing I really just don't like about them, is that they just are a pain to take care of, guys. You can't really empty all the water out of them before you remove them from your whole operation here. So sometimes you have to, or sometimes you end up carrying a Castro filter that weighs like 50 pounds because it's full of water, to a sink, and who knows how far away that sink can be, and it can just be a little bit of a challenge. There are some filters out there, I believe, like the Fluval FX6 or something like that, that have a bottom drain actually, where you can hook up a little tube and drain water out that way, which that's a really, really great option there, because as I said, it eliminates that need to carry a heavy Castro filter that's full of water to a sink. But for the most part, most Castro filters don't have that option, and pretty much you end up carrying a heavy filter to a sink. So that's just one of the things I don't like about Castro filters. They are a pain to clean, but they are perfect for planted tanks because they are a closed system, and they do a great job at filtering out fine particles, and providing great biological filtration, even chemical if you want to use that as well. And if you buy a really good one, one that's made from a good company or that has good reviews or whatever, they are really quiet, super quiet as a matter of fact. It's the quietest filter probably by far, because even power filters can be louder than Castro filters. So they are really great, and one that I definitely recommend for planted tanks. Not so much for saltwater tanks, because I heard that they don't really work well for saltwater tanks. They pretty much just become a nitrate factory, as some people call it, for saltwater tanks. So probably not the best for saltwater tanks. But for the most part, regular freshwater aquariums, planted tanks, they are great filters for those tanks. Last on the list is wet-dry filters. I'm sure most of my longtime viewers know that I used a wet-dry filter on one of my planted tanks for years, and for those of you out there that are experienced in this hobby still watching this video, you may be saying, well, why in the world were you using a wet-dry filter on a planted tank? Don't you know that just eliminates CO2 in your aquarium, and you basically just waste money on CO2 because it's too much oxygen that the filter produces? Yes, I absolutely know that. And I did find that out later, after having the wet-dry filter installed in my tank for quite some time. However, I really liked wet-dry filters because they were so customizable. I could do so many different things with wet-dry filters. I had so many different options as far as pumps, biological media, chemical media, different options as far as what other add-on things I want to hook up to it. I could custom make my plumbing, all kinds of stuff to suit my needs. Wet-dry filters are just so customizable, and that is one thing that I really, really like about them. Also, they provide tremendously great biological filtration. Some wet-dry filters, big wet-dry filters, have 2 chambers or even more chambers, where you can just fill the whole chamber with biological media, and that is just so good for any aquarium. Biological filtration is just so important, and the best type of filtration, in any filter. So the more you can add, to any filter, the better. And just that aspect alone is just something that makes me go crazy for wet-dry filters. They are just my absolute favorite filter, but unfortunately, they don't really work well for planted aquariums because there is just so much water movement, so much water being thrashed around over the bio balls and going into it and being pumped back into your tank. There's just so much water movement that your oxygen levels are out the roof, and if you're injecting CO2, you know, the CO2 probably will deplete in a matter of minutes. You know, it's just, it creates too much oxygen to for an aquarium, a planet aquarium, to maintain CO2 levels. So not the best filter for a planet aquarium, but for tropical aquariums, for saltwater tanks, regular freshwater aquariums, goldfish tanks especially, they are just awesome. And the number one thing that I loved about using my wet dry filter, besides the fact that it was customizable and it had great biological filtration, is that I could use a micron sock with it. If you guys don't know what a micron sock is basically a cylindrical, bag, I guess you could say. It looks pretty much just like a sock that's sewn together, and you can hook up to your wet dry filter in many different ways. For me, I just kind of Mickey Moused it and put my intake coming into my wet dry filter, that my pipe, into the sock, and that's how I used it. But there are mounts and brackets and many different options when it comes to mounting a micron sock to a wet dry filter. But I love micron socks for wet dry filters because they filter out fine particles so good, so much better than any other mechanical filtration and any other filter that we talked about today in this video. Way better than power filters and canister filters, because even though I know there are companies that say that they guarantee 100%, that no water bypasses your mechanical media or mechanical filter pads in your canister filters and power filters, but there is still some water bypass. It's not 100% because there are ways for water to leak around filter pads and stuff. But when you use a micron sock, and especially if it's positioned over the intake coming into or under the intake coming into your wet dry filter, you get 100% water into your micron sock and into your mechanical filtration, and absolutely no water bypass, which means every little fine particle, every little plant leaf or piece of poop from your fish gets filtered out in these micron socks. And especially considering the fact that you can buy them at different microns, different sizes, which a micron is basically the size of the hole that's inside the material of the sock. Not the hole like where the water goes in, but if you put the material under a microscope, you'll see little tiny holes, and that's the size of the hole, so that's the size that water can, or the holes that water goes through when you put water through a micron sock. But considering that you can buy micron socks at different microns, which I believe they go all the way up to 5 microns, which is really small, which I don't think would work well for aquariums because it would probably get dirty within a couple of seconds. I personally myself, I used a 100 micron sock on my tank, and just like I said, it filters out every little fine particle and makes your water crystal clear. Of course, it won't get rid of bacterial blooms. It won't get rid of algae blooms. So it won't make your tank crystal clear in that sense. But if you have like really dirty fish like goldfish, or if you have a lot of just crap in your tank, it filters out every little thing and makes your water so clear. And that was the number one thing I loved about my wet dry filter, because I was able to take all the water coming into my filter, put it through the micron sock, get it completely particle free, rain it over my bio balls particle free, which meant that my wet dry filter wasn't getting dirty and stuff wasn't getting caked on the inside, because particles are being missed through the mechanical filter or filtration option, and throw it back in my tank, just perfectly filtered. It was just the best filter ever. I loved my wet dry filter. But like I said, for planet tanks, it is really not the best choice. But if you have the money, because wet dry filters kind of are a little expensive, they aren't the cheapest filters out there. But if you have the money, invest in a wet dry filter. If you don't have a planted tank, if you just are setting up a goldfish tank, a tropical tank, or a regular freshwater tank, or especially a saltwater tank, invest in a wet dry filter because they are awesome. And in my opinion, besides using them for planted tanks, they are the best filter ever, the best filter ever made, the best filter out there. And there are so many different types of them, so many different ways that you can customize them. And yeah, they are just the best filters, period. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. I know this video is kind of long, but for you beginners out there, all this information will really help you. And I just wanted to get every little thing out, every little piece of advice that I could possibly give. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to catch my live show every Saturday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Right here on my YouTube channel. It's a lot of fun. I take calls live on the air. It's not really air, but I like to say that. Live on the air, and sometimes we have guests on the show as well that I patch in through Skype, through the stream. So it's a lot of fun, guys, and I encourage you guys to watch it. So every Saturday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on my YouTube channel. Also, don't forget to check out jacobsaquarium.com, where I sell aquatic plants. I have so many different types of aquatic plants for sale at very, very affordable prices. I like to say that I am the cheapest on the internet, but I don't know if there's somebody out there that's selling plants at like 2 cents a piece, so I can't say that for sure. But nonetheless, my prices are extremely affordable, more affordable than most websites out there, and I encourage you guys to check out jacobsaquarium.com if you're in the market for aquarium plants. So thanks again for watching, guys. I really appreciate it. Have fun with your tanks, and I will see you next time.